each at the elementaries. Anywhere between 25 and 30, depending on the school.
And our plan is to get how many?
Right now, we're just evaluating what we have. We don't have anything now in the planning or in the budget to purchase additional ones at this time, but it's something that we're going to be looking at.
Yeah, because from an instructional standpoint, moving the students from classroom to a lab, you lose, in the setup you lose 10 to 15 minutes of instructional time, whereas the cows in the room, that's 15 minutes of additional instruction. 3 days time, you can almost pick up one class.
Yeah, depending on where you are at the high school, you're right. It can be time consuming.
And then
Yep.
smart boards for the high school, when are they coming about?
We're going to have those discussions administratively as well as with the PTO. Actually, last week, so we're trying to move in that direction.
Is there any way we can move it? Any way we can move any over there for them to use?
Well, what we're doing,
Technology, you know, the high school's kind of, I think, being slated right now, not having that up.
we're not, for the most part, the smart boards that we have are not on wheels. They are being permanently mounted. Case in point, Tollgate, because of the 3 floors there. We do have a couple on wheels, as well as the one at Hopewell because of the multiple stories. But for the most part, most of them are being mounted, so that wouldn't lend itself too much to moving around. That was a logistic we took a look at very closely, but moving those in and out of classrooms, we felt the wear and tear and the problems that it took with the setting up and tearing down and being part of the video network as well. It just wasn't conducive to being on wheels.
I'm not sure, I guess you're saying video network. I'm a little confused because smartboard technology carries a projector with it. So
Correct, but what we do is we tap it into the existing video network and going up and down our hallways into all of our classrooms, which feeds cable TV, which has the feed from the TV stations. Both the middle school and the high school have the news report in the morning, homeroom news. That's shared. If it's not tapped into the video network, that smart board's not going to be able to pick that up. The tie back to the TV studio, that sort of thing. They have video on demand services.
Thanks.
Yep.
Doug, quick question. When you mentioned getting the connectivity between all the schools,
Yeah.
So you've got Timberlane to the high school now. And what's the advantage of linking in the grammar schools? What's the thinking?
Speed, purely speed. Right now, we have a link that goes out to, the internet comes in, a big pipe comes into the high school. But for that feed to get to the elementaries, you're going from like a 8-inch pipe to a 1 millimeter pipe. And we can actually be at Bear Tavern at some times of the day, and we'll be really sucking wind trying to get to even out to our home page, let alone go out to a website. There's certain times of the day, heavy usage, and the elementaries really bear the brunt of that.
It looks like we've invested a lot of money in the last couple of years in technology. Do we have any statistics to show how it's either improved the educational experience or increased our kids' performance or anything to back?
Well, I think that's one of the questions that we've been asking as part of the Vanguard group, administratively, with the new changes on board. We've been asking that question as well. Not that I can stand before you right now and spout any specifics, but I think that's where we're going. That we need to take a look at that.
Yeah, I think one of our problems is that curriculum sometimes is not driving the technology. So we have a lot of islands of technology, and that's probably not being utilized well. I can see examples. We talk about computer usage. We have a computer lab probably at each school that's heavily utilized, but we may have computers that are sitting in each classroom that aren't utilized. And all those things need to be looked at. And then obviously, how is it tied back into curriculum, or is curriculum driving it? And I think that's something that really needs to be looked at, I think, in the future.
Metrics are probably fairly easy to do. I mean, you can easily put a counter on a computer and figure out how much message it's getting.
Yeah.
Jim, I would agree with you, though. I think that there has been a little bit of a technology drive as opposed to a curriculum drive.
Right.
I think we need to focus more on how it's going to help the curriculum. I completely agree 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on the board for a couple years now, and I know we've had computer refreshes, and I keep on hearing this thing that, our average computer is 4 to 5 years old or going on 6 or 7 years old, but we spent several $100,000 a couple summers ago. And, we really need to start looking at, what the value is here. And I think the big thing is how curriculum is driving this versus the other way around.
Well, I think with the new standards, I think that's where we are right now, because if we don't do that, Jim, then shame on us.
Yeah,
because that's where it's asking us to go. It's curriculum based.
I don't see a lot of value in some of these standards. I see by the time they graduate from high school, they need to learn email and stuff like that. And we're talking about all these social sites and everything else. But as a curriculum or the value of education, of interacting with those, someone has to tell me where there is value. I think, if we're talking about that type of stuff, I think we're getting removed from the focus of education and getting more focused on what the latest, greatest technology thing is that a child's carrying around with them. And that's great. I understand kids are using all this stuff. But what I need to understand is where the value is, for the education.
Let me give you an example with the iTouches. We had the foundation. We had a number of requests through the foundation to get iTouches for each of our schools, like a cart of them per se. And we took a look at that and said, wait a second, we're not ready to go there. We got some iTouches for a Vanguard group. We started to explore that, the classroom utilization. Where are the uses? How can we best utilize that with our teachers, with our curriculum? And we just had our second meeting on that. But we didn't see that was an area where we felt comfortable in going in masses, getting something where we haven't test driven that. We haven't really thought through the process of how we can really use it within our curriculum. So that's where we are. And I think that was a good example where we put the brakes on a little bit and said, even though it wasn't coming out of our, Hopewell Valley budget, that still doesn't mean that, we want to just get this technology in just for the sake of saying we got it and not know how we're going to utilize it. Yeah, it looks good because the kids are using it, but how are teachers going to best use it? That's, that's something where we're continuing to explore.
And then my next issue here is obviously we have a lot of applications that are used throughout the education in curriculum and stuff. How are these applications being chosen, and how do we assess the value of them, and then obviously the expense of those in the thing? Who's choosing them? Is it chosen driven through curriculum, or does a teacher decide to bring it in? And how are we gaining control over all this? Because I know there's applications all over the place, all different ones. And
actually, the last couple of years we've been taking a good look at that, and we've whittled down the support of the number of applications we had in the school district. For example, we had a number of typing programs, and we settled on one. We had as a computer department, technology department, we took a look at those, so which ones best serve our needs, and we phased out the other ones. We took a look at our word processing. We had a couple word processors at one time, and we relied just on Microsoft Office and Word. There's a number of those applications that are more curricular based. We had the classroom teachers and the supervisors working together to make recommendations. Sometimes they come back from a workshop and they see something that's the latest and greatest. That comes back to me. Comes back to our tech teachers, and we take a look at that and see how best it can be deployed, see if it actually fits in within our curriculum. Supervisory approval goes through that supervisory approval first before a teacher can just say, here's a software program. Licensing is a big issue. We track the licensing. Our publishers are providing a lot of information now. But here again, we had a social studies. Just this morning, we had a social studies publisher provide us and tell us that we could deploy that to all of our social studies teachers, a bunch of assessments on there and textbook resources. But then he called back and said, well, wait a second, I'm looking at the license here, and it says only one install. And so, something as simple as that, and we need to take a look at, make sure we're licensed correctly. But usually it's through the supervisory and the curriculum review that those decisions are made.
Okay, so there are programs out there that we also have, like with engineering and things like that. I remember you
correct
gave a presentation.
Correct, through our engineering and architectural program. We have that's a special license, special fee. It's like $3,900 per year for that usage of about 6 different programs, including Autodesk, Inventor, Architectural Desktop, AutoCAD, all high-powered, very expensive programs, and we can put it on 60 computers, 2 labs at $3,900. So that's a special deal that we get.
My last question, what about